Ready? Now, speak! Woof, woof. Good dog.
Anitra, this is 2022. We're not supposed to treat our children like pets.
But we're all dogs in Pavlov's Dogs.
This is a snap review for Pavlov's Dogs. Pavlov's Dogs is a cooperative memory and cognition game from Heather and Chris O'Neill and published by 9th Level Games.
Up to 8 people can play in about 20 minutes. The box says it's for ages 14 and up, but this is a game you can definitely play with younger gamers. We included Elliot here when we played. It did slow us down a little bit, but it worked just fine.
Pavlov's Dogs has a cute art style that we like, but there isn't a ton of art in this game. There just aren't a lot of components to it. You got the test folder, the rule cards, the bone tokens, and the playing cards.
Our favorite piece is definitely the rule cards. These are a treat for any student of psychology with dog names like Abby Maslow, the dogtor of Doggy Needs,
and Sigmund Fetch of Big Dog Ego.
Do you have Big Dog Ego?
Possibly.
They are, of course, all the goodest boys and girls.
The playing cards are clear and simple, and they need to be. They come in 3 colored suits, yellow, brown, and blue. They're numbered 1 through 5, and they have commands like sit, speak, and fetch.
There are also gray bell cards with the value 0, but several of the rules change how the bells work.
Speaking of how things work, Andrew, let's talk about the mechanics and how you play the game.
So, start by giving every player 3 bone tokens. Players will take turns being the dogtor each round, making sure the other doggies follow the rules. Each round, the current dogtor adds a new rule to the test folder. After reviewing the rules, the dogtor hides the folder, deals 5 playing cards to each other player, and the round begins.
The starting player flips the top card from their pile. They announce the value of the pile plus their card, after following any of the hidden rules that apply to the current card. So let's say this rule is out, requiring a player says hi before putting a speak card down. If Elliot flips this speak card down onto the stack with a current value of 20, he needs to say hi and then play the card into the center, ending with the total value of the center pile.
23!
All of the rules for past rounds would stack up at this point, so Elliot might have needed to do a couple of other things, depending on what rules were out. In this case, Elliot followed all rules correctly, so Anitra, as the dogtor, gets to say,
good dog.
And then it's time for the next player's turn.
If Elliot failed to follow a rule, like this one that says subtract yellow cards, or gets the math wrong, the dogtor must tell them they are a bad dog. Then they tell them what they did wrong and take away one of their bones. The central pile resets to 0 after a mistake, and the next player around the table takes their turn.
Play continues until all the doggies have exhausted their 5-card piles, but you immediately lose the game if any player runs out of bones.
When the round is over, if you haven't lost already, pass the folder to a new dogtor who gets to add an additional rule. At this point, you can redistribute bones if one player is having trouble.
Keep adding a new rule every round until you've beaten the desired difficulty level, 3, 5, or 8 rules. Or one player runs out of bones.
If you didn't run out of bones, you can check your grade in the rulebook after you finish.
So Anitra, what did we expect from Pavlov's Dogs?
Well, it's really unusual to see a game in such a small box that plays up to 8 players, especially if it's not a trivia game or a guessing game or something like that.
With a name like Pavlov's Dogs, I expected plenty of puns and some science education.
The rules were a little tough to decipher. 9th level games leaned a little bit hard on the psychological test theme and the dog puns, and that meant it took several reads through before we were sure exactly what we were supposed to do.
Once we started playing, we had a great time. You can tell from the rules and from the cards that this is a game that does not take itself seriously. So, there were some surprises. What surprised us about Pavlov's Dogs?
Even though this is already kind of a silly game, you can play it seriously to test your memory. There's even a team mode for really competitive types where each team is following a different set of rules. But the game also offers a chance to replace one of the easy sets of tests with silly tests to make it even more ridiculous, with actions like sticking out your tongue or sniffing your bones.
Pavlov's Dogs actually gets harder the more you play it. You're more likely to misremember and follow rules from earlier games. Playing this one back to back is especially difficult.
That was a huge surprise.
Ugh.
I expected Pavlov's dogs to be educational, given the name, but the way in which it helped our kids the most was actually math, not science.
Of course, there's a ton of material here that can lead to conversations about Pavlov and his experiments, but mental arithmetic is something that people just get better at with more reps, and Pavlov's dogs provides that in spades.
It's also just hilarious.
It is hilarious. So, Anitra, do we recommend Pavlov's dogs?
Pavlov's Dogs is a fun game for group play. While it's definitely playable with 2 players, we much prefer it with at least 4, even better with more. When you pick up this game, you might be tempted, based on the art, to play it with your youngest gamers. While it can flex down to gamers as young as 7 or 8, I mean it did for us, the psychology puns and the recommended age of 14 plus on the box suggest that the game is intended for silly science fans. We think the truth is somewhere in between the two.
We are going to rate Pavlov's dogs 3 bones out of 5.
And that's Pavlov's Dogs
In a snap.
14 and up, but this is a game you can definitely play.